Why does this event matter? That we're talking about the politics of UFO disclosure. We could have said UAP disclosure. We're going to be using the phrase UAP a lot today and tomorrow, and that's fine. I had my own battle with that phrase for a while. I'm like, should we use the UAP? Is there a pro? Is there a con? What's the deal? I'm now at the point where I think we can use both phrases, UFO and UAP. Both have their uses, and I'll be probably using them both. But why does this matter? Let me share a screen with you, and I'm just going to run through my thoughts with you. This is a little mini presentation here. I'm assuming you can all see that. Yes, I can see that too. So this is our event for this weekend. Why do we need this mini conference, this weekend series of lectures? Well, I'm going to give you my own take on it. First of all, this subject is in the news quite a lot. It has been in the news quite a bit since 2017. Look, that means many of us are sort of up to speed on it. We're kind of up to date. We get the headlines. We sometimes read or listen to the up-to-date news and analysis that's out there. So I think most of us attending are somewhat on top of this phenomenon. And I am going to hazard to guess probably much greater than the average member of the public. No question. So, but why do we need to do this here? I would suggest that despite all of the news that has accrued to the UFO subject since, let's say, 2017, there is still limited to little understanding of what I continue to feel are the most important issues relating to this subject. I'm going to get into them. But right now, here, I got a couple of bullet points. One thing that we never discuss that I believe is crucial to why we are talking about UAP now is the decline of the United States empire. It's an empire, my friends, and it is having some rough times. There is no coincidence that a lot of this UFO, UAP information is coming out at a time when the U.S. position is beginning to show many cracks around the world. I personally will have a little bit more to say about that in my longer lecture tomorrow. Maybe we'll chat about it in the panel today as well, but mainly I'll be talking about that. At the same time, we're looking at the creation of a kind of global system. I often talk about the creation of the moving into the fourth stage of humanity. It's all related. We are moving into something radically new, radically different. It is transforming the human species. It is transforming human civilization in so many critically important ways. And all of that, I think, is not coincidental to the changes that we are seeing in our discussion about the UFO, UAP subject. So that's going on. And there's really a limited understanding of that, but yet it's important. In the news relating to UAP, we see a specific narrative being given when we are getting a narrative, because this subject still remains more or less absent from the big news. It's out there, it's humming along at a little small level, but there's a specific narrative that is being given. Essentially, it is a narrative by which members of Congress and members of the military are saying, we are going to try to get to the bottom of this mystery. Now, that's an interesting thing to say. It's a nice thing for us to hear from our responsible political and military leaders. We want to hear things like that. But the real question is that true? Is that actually what is going on? Are they really, particularly the military people, are they actually in the process of getting to the bottom of this and researching it and getting the data that they continually talk about? Is that what's happening, or is there something else going on? I'm going to suggest to you something else absolutely is going on. The stakes are very high in this subject. It's not simply a matter of, look, let's get real here, preserving a democratic Republican type of governmental system in which citizens are the sovereign of the nation. So we are in a nation that for decades and generations, and it's independent of party, whatever your politics are, you must know this. Democrat, Republican, both of these parties have moved in a certain direction away from rule, or not just rule by the people, but even responsive information coming to the people has been more and more difficult to get. We want to preserve what is left of this free society that we all grew up in and believe in. And getting to the bottom of the UFO phenomenon, in my view, I have felt this way for 25 plus years, has been critically important in that process. So the UFO cover-up is like an open sore in the American body politic. But it goes beyond America. This is worldwide, of course. Other nations are equally invested in getting to the bottom of this. And then the other aspect of the fact that these stakes are very high is the fact, as I'm going to get into, I think, in a second, this is a global phenomenon in which someone or some groups of beings are doing something that's very important to them and therefore very important to us. These things are everywhere, and it's like no one's paying attention. I have been trying to track the number of genuine good sightings and the genuine number of good, the amount of traffic that is out there. And frankly, it's impossible really to know for sure, but we can, I think, confidently say there are thousands of good sightings every single year. And I can say this, I think I'm in a good position to say this because I've gone through the work of reading thousands of reports. I personally have read thousands of UFO reports over the last many years. I've data mined a number of sources, and I just read them and read them and read them. And, obviously, thousands of raw reports does not automatically equate into thousands of genuine alien craft that are being sighted. But I'm just going to tell you, there are many, many outstanding sightings of these craft. Enough that when I do my calculations, and I will go through this in my formal lecture tomorrow, I am quite convinced, and I think it's a good argument, that we're talking about probably 40, 50,000 good sightings a year worldwide, minimum. Realistically, I'd say probably 100,000 a year would not shock me in the least. So this is a very big thing that is blanketing our world. Also, on top of that, abductions are still happening. They're still going on. We don't know how many people are being taken, but Tracy and I just the other day were chatting with a very good, trusted friend and researcher that we know very well, who experiences this, who's updating us on this individual's situation. This is still an ongoing thing. We don't hear a lot about it, but it's still happening. What does that signify? Another thing is that the military encounters are still happening. I'm doing a book. I think the word's gotten out. I put that word out, that I'm doing a very large book right now on the history of USOs, that is underwater UFO phenomenon. Right now, that book is at 500 pages. It's still going. It's going to become quite a bit longer when I'm done. I will tell you, many of the encounters I've collected are United States Navy encounters. Also other nations, Soviet Navy and other nations as well. But the U.S. Navy cases they're not just fascinating. I think maybe the best word would be mind-blowing. And I'm going to describe a number of those in my lecture tomorrow. But the point is to emphasize that there is a critically important military dimension to this phenomenon that we need to understand. Another thing, we have a cover-up that's now about 80 years old. It's as old as a human lifetime. This is a significant thing we need to be talking about. And again, do we have any conversation about this in our public discourse that even remotely captures the flavor of the depth of this cover-up? I would say the answer is no. We're not getting any kind of discussion of this. So these are things that have been important to me. The military dimensions, the cover-up part, those are probably the two pillars of my own personal interest in this. And I see them in this era, post-2017. Yeah, we're talking about UFOs more and more, but we're not talking about these aspects because they are still a red line. The cover-up is long past its expiration date. Another thing, we need clarity. Remember when the internet first came along and we were talking about the information highway? How amazing. Wow, 1990s were really cool for that. And then we get to the web and it's the information superhighway. And now we're in some version of the movie They Live, we're in a state-controlled disinformation superhighway, which I put together a little visual here, which I think covers it pretty well. You're on the road, you got all the signs. Democracy, yes, here are the guardrails. We're watching you. Stay in your lane. It's all about narrative control and obey. And UAP are ahead. That's kind of our internet now. It's a situation in which we are more and more controlled in our public discourse. I recall when this whole business started, probably 2014, 2015 is when, many of us first started knowing the centralization and curation of information over the web. I started noticing it with UFOs at that time. This is before the world, we started fighting over Donald Trump. Before that, we started already seeing the centralization and the dilution of information pertaining to our subject. And now it's, of course, just gotten vastly, vastly worse. So that is our world. So toward that end, we've got an event this weekend with 3 individuals, including myself, 2 individuals that we have invited that I have just great respect for. This man here that I've got pictured is, of course, Stephen Bassett. I call Stephen the voice of disclosure. My goodness, this man has been working this subject for, I think, 30 years. And a little fun fact, I was thinking about this morning. I believe Stephen is the first person in the UFO community that I developed an actual relationship with when I was a brand new guy. I wrote Stephen and probably Whitley Strieber. Whitley is the other one that I quickly had a relationship with. But Stephen's been much closer, I must say. And when my first book came out in 2000, long time ago, Stephen was, boom, right there. Right there. He was on me. He said, Richard, you're a guy that I want to be working with. And we have been working together for the last quarter of a century, just about. It's an incredible thing. He's a fascinating man. He's got a deep knowledge of DC politics. He's kind of a political fanatic. If you know him, you understand what I mean by that. The man lives and breathes politics. He's intense. Anyone who's known Stephen knows he is intense when he talks about politics, but you kind of want that intensity frequently. The other thing I have listed here about Steve, and this is not a knock, this is a fact. He is a believer in the system. And, not all of us are real believers in the system anymore. I have my good days and bad days when it comes to that. But let me just say this. We need people who believe in this political system of ours, because you know why? We need to believe in it too. And it's broken, it's bruised, it's battered, it's in a coma. Is it ever going to revive? Who knows? There's a lot of bad things going on here. But for us to give up on that system would mark a very, very dark day for all of us. We don't want to do that. Steve is there. He's still fighting. He's still fighting. And I'm not going to mention his age. Maybe he will. He's been doing this a long time. He has lived a long life. We'll leave it at that. He's still vibrant. He's still got power. And he's got a voice, and we need to hear what that voice says. The man is legendary. And I am convinced, by the way, as time goes by and we are no longer here on this side of the veil, but Steve will be remembered as a legend and as one of the key figures in the fight for disclosure of the UFO reality. You mark my words, this will be the case. And so he will be here. He's got a lot to say. He always does. I chatted with him on the phone again last night. He sounds great. He's looking forward to this. And I think we'll all be happy for that. Next is Chris Lehto. Now, Chris is not someone that I have known for a long time. I chatted with Chris earlier this week. I have admired his YouTube channel. Chris is a former F-16 pilot. That's one thing. He is, in my view, a journalist of the UFO, UAP subject that is exceptional. He's gotten to that level. His YouTube channel, called The Lehto Files, is one of the best out there at this point. he is on top of all kinds of issues. He just did an interview a couple of weeks ago with a retired U.S. Navy admiral where he talked about USOs and the admiral's knowledge of a large number of UFO and USO events. He did an extended trip just recently to Hessdalen, Norway, to do some boots on the ground investigative journalism of that incredible phenomenon that's been going at Hessdalen for over 40 years, something I've been interested in. Many of you I know are interested in it. He was just there and just doing incredible work there. He interviewed, I think it was Joseph Herrera, who's one of Stephen Greer's witnesses recently, a year ago, relating to that initiative for disclosure. Herrera is someone who talked about UFOs and black budget craft in Indonesia. That's on Chris's YouTube channel. This is the kind of work he does. It's cutting edge, leading edge, important, and he's a fresh voice. He's a new guy. He's a new researcher in this field. We need people like him. We need new voices all the time. When you're in this field, as I have been now for almost publicly for almost 30 years, you become aware we need more voices, good voices, and Chris is one of them. We're lucky to have him. So Chris will be speaking in about 15 minutes, not long after I'm done here talking with you, and I think that will be a worthwhile lecture for sure. And of course, there's myself. I wasn't even going to put a picture of myself. Tracy's like, you got to do this for yourself. And I thought, okay, fine. I thought you all know who I am. But yes, I'm a historian of this subject. That is a perspective that I would say is important. History is one of these things that all too often gets lost in the shuffle. We lose our history. And when we lose our history, we're really in danger of losing ourselves and the core of what we are. But in addition to the history, I think it's important that we continue talking about the cover-up itself, which is something that's been a big focus of mine for really all of my life, and the issues pertaining to disclosure. This was something, of course, I wrote a book about it a number of years ago. I can stop the screen share at this point. The issues dealing with disclosure have not gone away. They have amplified since I co-authored that book with Bryce Zabel back in 2010. Unbelievable to think back about it. I hope to discuss this over the weekend, but there are certain things that I know we absolutely got very, very well. Other things we didn't get quite right. Well, the one thing we didn't see fully, perfectly, was how the avalanche effect would happen. This is the thing we're all waiting for. You go back to 2010 when we wrote that book, and we assumed, as I think many folks assumed, that I'm just getting a mention that Chris is in the webinar. I see him there. Hello, Chris Lehto. He's going to be on soon. When we co-authored After Disclosure, I think the thought was a major statement, a major announcement will cause a kind of tsunami, an avalanche. One person, then another, and then everyone's going to pile on. And the next thing you know, the national security state is going to be running for cover thinking, what do we do now? We have to come up with a plan. Well, that is not exactly what's happened. However, that has not been ruled out. So what we're seeing in this instead is, and this is something I will be talking a lot about tomorrow, which is the effect of the insurgency within the national security apparatus and the effect of factions. We've had 80 years of factions. This is not a new thing. That once something big did come out, starting in 2017, that the avalanche did not immediately start. No. But we are seeing rumblings. It's like I feel like we're looking at a delayed action effect here. So it has taken a few years. And that is because there has been a great level of resistance coming from the established groups, what Donald Kehoe for years and years used to call the secrecy group, way back in the 1950s. That name still applies. It's still valid. It's still apropos. So they're not out of the game. We cannot expect the U.S. military, the U.S. intelligence community, the national security apparatus that has been invested in this cover-up conspiracy for all these years to just throw their cards down on the table and walk away. Not going to happen. They have too much invested. And this is what we are seeing playing out now. We're watching a battle. A lot of it is behind the scenes. We can't see the direct fighting going on, but we're seeing a lot of the results coming through the media, coming through various leaks here and there. We saw it last summer with David Grush. We're going to be seeing more. This is not over. And I'm very proud this weekend to be accompanied by two really exceptional individuals and voices in the UFO community. And in fact, before we go any further, let me pull my screen back up because I have two other things here I want to share with you, which is the schedule. And I've got about 2-3 minutes to do that. So for today, you will see after my welcome message ends here, we will have Chris Lehto for up to a 90-minute lecture. If Chris is like me, he may just keep going. Who knows how long he wants to go, but he's got 90 minutes. We're looking forward to it. When he is done, actually, he probably won't be able to go over too much because Bassett, don't step on Steve Bassett's toes. He's coming on at 3 p.m. Eastern time, and he will be ready. That's noon Pacific. So they will be back to back. We will then have there'll be live chat throughout most of that, all of that. And by the way, let's mention the chat people in just a second. But we will have a live panel discussion at 5 p.m. Eastern, that's 2 p.m. Pacific. That will be with myself, Steve, and Chris. I will be moderating and leading that. The real drama of that will be Steve Bassett trying to wrest control of that from me, because that's what we will do. But I'm going to moderate that, and we're going to have a great conversation at that time for up to 2 hours, well, probably 90 minutes. And then after that, Tracy and I will have the first of the VIP sessions. You can hang out with us, talk with us, yell at us, tell me what I'm doing right, tell me what I'm doing wrong, tell Tracy what you want her to do. We'll be here. That's limited for up to 50 people. Tomorrow, just to give you a sense of the schedule here, chat room will open in the morning, as you can see here. I will give a 90-minute lecture, dishing it out on all the things that I think are important with this subject, some of which I've just hinted at. And then we will have the VIP sessions. Chris Lehto will have his at 3 p.m. Eastern. Steve Bassett will have his at 5 p.m. Eastern. And throughout, I want to give a quick thanks before I get off here. We have 5 incredibly wonderful volunteers who are in the chat room, just kind of moving things along and answering questions and providing their own take on all kinds of matters. They are Vinnie Adams of Disclosure Team, Jason Guillemette of UAP Studies Podcast, Andy McGrillen of That UFO Podcast, Jess Rogue from Escape the Simulation, and Linda Thompson, investigative researcher who has been out in the community for many, many years. Lots of us know and love her. So these are 5 very, very well-known and worthy expert level people in the UFO field who are just wandering through the chat room. They're like the agents in the Matrix. You never know when you run into them, but they will be there. Except they're not as dangerous as agents in the Matrix. So I want to make that clear. So that's what we have going here for our event. I want to thank all of those individuals, everyone else who's involved in putting this together. Before the recording started, I thanked Lori and Michael Moriarty of Pursuing X, who really had so much to do with this. And again, my wife, who's standing right in front of me, who without her, I'll be totally honest, none of this would happen. So thank you, Tracy. With that, I'm going to hand it over, and I'll have a couple of minutes before Chris takes over. Again, I want to thank you for being here this weekend. I think we're going to have a good time, and I think we're going to learn a few things too. So back soon. Let's keep fighting the good fight.